Hey, Amanda, it's Lynn from Rosewood, Santa Monica. How you doing? You there?
Yep.
Hey, girl.
Hey.
I'm so grateful that you joined us today. I'm going to be recording, as I told you. We do these Alum Connect calls, twice a month maybe or something, and then I go ahead and share it with the alum that can't be on the call. So, wonderful people like you that are in recovery and on the journey, sharing their experience, strength, and hope with us. So, we can stay in community and inspire one another. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. I'm so glad I got to meet you last month and that you said yes to speaking. So I'm just going to kind of, quote, unquote, give you the floor or whatever so you can just share with us, and I appreciate you. So just go for it. Tell us about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you. So this is my first time actually telling my story in a public setting, and so I really wanted this opportunity for a long time, and I've done a lot of professional talks as a mental health counselor and someone who specializes in eating disorders, and I'm recovered from an eating disorder myself, and so I wanted this opportunity for a long time, but because I've never done this before, I started feeling myself getting nervous, and I wrote that blurb that I sent to you, and it's talking about the narratives we tell ourselves, right, and how part of the narratives kept me entrenched in my eating disorder. It created and maintained my eating disorder for a long, long time. And only by retelling the story in a different way, reframing it, if you will, I was able to get out of it. And so I'm thinking about it as I'm, my heart is beating faster right now and I'm getting a little bit warmer in temperature. I'm thinking to myself, there's two stories I could tell. One, that I'm a huge failure and everyone's going to know it. And I'm really scared and nervous that I won't reach anyone and that I'll ramble and sound really dumb. Or two, I'm really excited and value the opportunity to tell people my story because I remember the people who told me theirs and how much hope it gave me. And I hope that someone out there is listening and somebody connects with what I'm saying. And so whatever I tell myself ends up informing my experience. And then as a result of that, I end up thinking and behaving a certain way in the world. So whether I'm anxious or whether I'm excited gives me two very different ways of living. So, with my eating disorder, when I was younger, I was never that kid that was a perfectionist in everything, who wanted to please people. I was that one who decided what was important to me, and I went after that with everything I had. It was either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. And so, for example, when I was younger and I was in 6th grade, I wanted to learn how to play the drums because the drums were the ones who set the beat. So one time the band director is directing and he says, he stops everyone and he goes, Amanda, you're off the beat. And I say to him, no, Mr. Welch, you're off the beat. I set the beat. And I remember the whole class went dead silent and I didn't know what was wrong because I really truly believed I set the beat as the percussionist, So my mom got a call and then we talked and it was a bad deal. But it really should have been a big omen for everybody of what was to come. Because when I wanted something, I was very, very stubborn about getting it. So, when I was younger, I had, these narratives that I created about what it was like to be good enough and what it was like to be in the world and how the world is not a safe place and I'm not safe in the world. My childhood was very, very chaotic and we moved around a lot, and at one point, my sisters and I went into foster care, and some foster cares were good and some were really bad. And I think the thing that really went through my eating disorder more than anything was the theme of poverty. So there were days that we couldn't eat and days that, we could. And when we could eat, I ate every single thing I could because I didn't know when I'd be able to eat again. So I would say more than anything, that narrative was the hardest thing to break, even after I could afford food, because when my mom finally was able to have a steady income where she could afford more than either hot dogs or powdered milk and cereal or whatever it is she could get at that time, I couldn't stop eating. I knew that there was food there, but I just couldn't stop myself. There was something that was so ingrained in me that kept all that going. And so I had no idea about my body really and no sense of that. I was really more sensitive to the idea of survival as opposed to I have to be fat or thin or whatever kind of body type I was, quote unquote, supposed to be. We were homeschooled in the beginning as well. And so, it wasn't until we were in public school and we were in a suburban area that I started becoming body conscious. My mom, she grew up in an area that was in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and her parents were those, middle-class suburban parents who, what it was like to be ladylike was defined as thin and quiet but strong, like all of these stereotypes, So my mom had her own narrative of what it was like to be a woman that she passed down to me and my sisters, and she would say things like, oh, there's so much ageism in this culture, and so you have to be young and thin and beautiful if you're going to get any kind of job or success. And so I would listen to her, and I would think about what I wanted, and success was something I desperately wanted because I never wanted to be poor again. That was a main value of mine. I was never going to be poor again. I was going to make sure that I could be successful, and so I internalized that. Like, to be thin is to be loved. To be thin is to be successful. To be thin is to be liked and have friends and be popular. To be thin is what you needed to be in the world in order to thrive. So I kept that narrative, and then in public school, some of the kids started teasing me about my weight, and it was the first time that I'd really been teased or conscious. And I remember a moment in fourth grade when this girl, her name was Ellen Good, I remember this like it was yesterday, and it sticks with me so much. She said some comment to me, and I looked at her, and she said, "Don't cry, Thunder Thighs." And I looked at her, and I stared her down, and it took everything in me. I was biting my tongue, trying not to cry. And in that moment, I knew that my body told me I wasn't good enough, and I started using my body as a gauge to how good I was or how good I wasn't. So I created all these narratives, and by the time I got to college, my mom, who was the only parent I ever knew growing up, my mom decided she wasn't going to talk to me anymore because I wanted to talk to my dad. So I lost everything I knew. My mom told her whole side of the family, including my older sister, who was my best friend at the time. She said none of them could talk to us. So I was really alone in the world, and I just ended up flying into my eating disorder, just desperate to get my mom back. And I just thought if I was only thinner, she would love me. If I was thinner, she'd want me back. If I achieved more, she'd, love me. And so all of these were just like desperate attempts. And so I would really say that my eating disorder had saved my life at that time. It was the only thing I could grab onto, and I would have been so empty and alone without that. But like anything, the thing that is your best friend, it's like it becomes almost like an abusive partner later on. And, the narrative changed. It went from something I loved that helped give me guidance and structure to something that felt like an obligation and something that tormented me. And the thoughts got worse. And then I started creating narratives around my eating disorder that changed. It wasn't the narrative of, oh my gosh, this is so great. I'm losing so much weight. People are congratulating me. I'm going to get my mom back. It was, oh my gosh, like I wonder if these thoughts are ever going to go away. These thoughts are occupying so much of my day. My whole world started revolving around my eating disorder, and I had no idea how to get myself out at that point. And even more, I had the compounded shame of being in college and being a psych major. So here I am wanting to be a therapist. I'm volunteering at different places, and I have an eating disorder that I'm so ashamed of, and I'm hiding from everybody else and just trying to have that face of, I want you to see me this way, but I'm like, if you knew who I really was, then you wouldn't want me. And so I kept that shame going, and like the narrative wasn't just around my eating disorder anymore, it was around me. And I was shameful. I was, an embarrassment to be around. I'm not good enough. All of those narratives, just kept going. And so when it came time to try recovery, because I felt like I couldn't do it anymore, I would say, okay, I could do it. Like, this is no problem. I could just stop these behaviors and then it's all gone. So I tend to be super go hard or go home type of person. So I went hard really hard one day, and I woke up and I said, okay, today's the day I'm gonna recover. And I tried to stop the behaviors, and I said, okay, well, I'm stopping behaviors. I'm eating breakfast this morning. Everything's great. It's the best day ever. But the thoughts kept coming, and they worsened and got louder and louder and louder until I couldn't take it anymore. And what started out as I'm going to start the best day in the world ended up being I'm the worst person in the world. And then, of course, I acted on the behaviors that I was trying to stop, and it just reinforced that I was the worst person in the world, and I couldn't do anything right, and I can't even do this. And so by the time, I really started getting serious help, and my friends started noticing, I was just so deep. And every person who said, you need to gain weight, the story I told myself was, you're jealous and you're fat, and that's why you want me to gain weight, because you want me to be just as fat as you are. And so, all of these stories just kept people out and kept me inside myself. And what I really needed to do was reach out. And so I would, go to my counselor, and I would listen to my treatment team, and they would say, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I would go back and say, you're not doing your job, because I still have these thoughts. I still have these behaviors. But the fact is, all I did was show up. I didn't really do anything that they told me to do. I just showed up, and I sat there expecting them to fix it. And I realized that it wasn't about them fixing it. It was really about me needing to do the work. And I didn't want to. It was too hard for me to want to do the work. So it was easier to put the responsibility and the blame on them. So I finally started to, get to the point that I was I can't do this anymore. I tried recovery, which I really didn't. I tried to make other people be responsible for my recovery, but I lied to myself and told myself I tried recovery, and I tried my eating disorder, and I tried making it a lifestyle, because I was that's the only way I'm going to be able to, live life, just if I can make it a lifestyle, which never ended up working, because, it always get worse. And so I was ready to kill myself. And, the fact is, when I really thought about it, it was I would have these really messed up thoughts of you're too fat to even kill yourself, because when you lay in the casket, people are going to be oh, she's so fat and disgusting. So that my eating disorder, as much as it was killing me, it kept me from actually killing myself. But the thing I didn't realize was that I was already dead. Just because I had a heartbeat didn't mean I was living. It meant that I was surviving and just walking through the world dead. And I had to really sit down and think about what's my legacy? What is the thing I want to leave behind? And one particular night, my birthday, I had binged and purged 10 times that day, and it had gotten really bad. And I had this moment where I thought, you're either going to kill yourself right now or decide to live. And that it came out of nowhere. I had no idea what voice that was. Now I realize it was my healthy self coming forward. But when I thought about that ultimatum, it struck me that I didn't actually want to kill myself. I didn't want to die, but I didn't know how to live. So I decided that if I lived through the morning, I would wake up and I would get help, and I would actually do something about it. And I stopped the behaviors, and I started facing myself. And I realized that as hard as it was to stop the behaviors, I would never get through my eating disorder if I didn't learn to face myself. And the battle, it wasn't between me and my friends. It wasn't between me and my counselor and my treatment team. It was between me and me. And I had to learn to face the eating disorder self with my healthy self if I was ever going to get better. And it was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. And I honestly thought that the thoughts wouldn't end, that the behaviors wouldn't end. I didn't know what to do, where to turn, but I knew that I had to try something different. And so as much as I convinced myself that the treatment team's way of doing things wasn't going to work, I tried it because my way wasn't working, and it was too much for me to hold hope. So I didn't have any hope that this would work. That was the only way I was able to do it, and I just treated everything like an experiment. And I said, okay, in the same way, if I do this and this, I end up using eating disorder behaviors and have increased eating disorder thoughts. So if I do this and this, maybe it'll decrease. And if it didn't, that was okay, because it was literally just creating results. And I had no hope in any kind of outcome, and I didn't let myself down. I didn't think that it was going to be life-changing, whatever new coping skill I tried that day. But I did keep trying and keep doing what other people told me to do who knew what they were talking about. And eventually I realized that I was really sick of focusing on being sick. And I wanted to start focusing on being well and creating a life and identity outside of my eating disorder or eating disorder recovery. And so I started doing things like facing my fears, even when I was really scared of shame and rejection. And I started doing things that challenged all of the narratives, the negative narratives that I created for myself. And I said, I would set goals and say to myself, okay, even if this person reacts this way, you don't have control over that. And you stepped up and you asked the question that you felt was important, or you asked for what you wanted and advocated for yourself. And the fact is, it was the shame and the vulnerability and the fact of having my failure exposed that kept me in my eating disorder. And I still have days, even this phone call right now, this is something I wanted really bad. And if I didn't have this experience, if I kept myself from this experience, I would kick myself, because that's not living. And every day, in the beginning, I defined what living meant for me. And sometimes still I have to check in with myself when I'm scared or, want something but don't do it. I have to ask myself, are you living right now? And sometimes living means moving forward in spite of the fear. It doesn't mean the fear is going to go away. It doesn't mean that the anxiety is not going to be there, but it means that you can tell yourself, maybe there's a different way to tell this story. Maybe this isn't about, me and my story and exposing my shame and vulnerability and somebody saying, oh, well, she must be a really bad counselor because she has anxiety, or she must be a really bad counselor because, she feels this way. It could be about there's somebody out there that's not me that needs to hear that recovered is possible, and that, whatever struggle you're going through, there is an end point. And there's not an end point to all your struggles, but there's definitely an end point to the eating disorder struggle. And so when you change the story to not having it be so narcissistic about you and your own suffering or your own vulnerability or your own self, and you change it to other-oriented, amazing things could happen, and you can thrive a lot more comfortably than if you made it about you. But now, the stories I tell myself in recovery, I consider myself recovered because I don't think about eating disorder thoughts. I don't think about eating disorder behaviors anymore. And the fact is that all of those things I used to get out of the eating disorder thoughts and eating disorder behaviors, I use now. Reaching out when I feel like I'm too much in my head and listening to someone else's voice for a minute and then recognizing, oh, wait, you're being ridiculous and really over-traumatizing things right now. Or, when I was at an exercise class yesterday and I heard the instructor talk about you need to earn this meal for the 4th of July, or you need to earn this treat. And I laughed to myself, and I actually laughed out loud, because I thought to myself, if only you knew how seriously people could take that, right? But my narrative about myself had changed. I don't need to earn food anymore. Food is not something you earn. Food is not this privilege. It's something that you could just get because everybody deserves to eat. Everybody deserves food. Everybody has that as a basic human right. But, I had a lot of strengths that also went into my eating disorder that I'm able to rechannel, all that stubbornness and all the perfectionism, and wanting to be special and unique. All of those strengths, I just rechanneled. My whole narrative around wanting to change myself and feeling like I needed to change who I was in order to really be in recovery, I just rechanneled all of the strengths that I had to maintain it into a different area. So now, instead of just owning a private practice, my whole thing was I'm going to own a nationwide business and that helps people. And, I'm going to try to be the top in my field, and I'm going to try to be a speaker, and I'm going to try to do all of these really incredible things with this drive that I have to do a lot, this ambition. And then, my whole thing about being special and unique, having this business helps me do that too. But, just going back, it's all about what you tell yourself, and what you tell yourself is important. And I really hope that all you guys know that, you know, a day in recovery or being recovered isn't the best day ever. Like, not every day is the best day of your life, and sometimes recovered looks like a good, like an okay day, a mediocre day that doesn't include eating disorder thoughts and behaviors. And all those people that I listened to before that was like, I love my body and it's the best day and I'm living beyond my wildest dreams, I would listen to that and be like, you know what, like, I'll tell you what you can do with your wonderful, wildest dreams and, you know, your best days ever, because I never thought I could get there. Like, I never heard that, like, most days are just okay, and I never felt like I could love my body. All of that seemed way too far. And the thing for me is that I don't love or hate my body anymore. I just don't play that game. Like, I focus on what's important in life, and I know that the battle I engage in with my body is not worth it anymore. That's not a game I want to play. So I don't care, you know, if I love it or hate it. I don't pay attention, and I love what I'm able to do with it. And I focus on bigger things now, like my counseling practice or my business or contributing to my community and helping other people to speak and be leaders. I just focus on what's important to me. And, you know, I mean, maybe there are people out there who really love their body and all of that. I don't know if that's a lie they tell themselves or if that's like a real thing, because I haven't really met somebody like that yet, but maybe they're out there. But if you're one of those people that's like, I can never see a way there, just realize, like, it doesn't matter if you're 5 pounds or 500 pounds. Like, it's not a battle worth fighting anymore. And that game doesn't help you leave a better legacy than anyone else. And, like, that's not really ultimately who you want to be anyway. And when you leave this earth, right, no one's going to hug your body, your lifeless carcass, and be like, oh, my gosh, thank God she's still here or he's still here. They're going to say she's gone or he's gone. And because the most important part of you was your soul. The most important part of you was, you know, what your presence gave to other people. So, you know, I just hope that you recognize the gifts that you have and all the strengths that you have. And it's not all about changing who you are in recovery. It's just about rechanneling them and then working to mitigate your weaknesses, like your criticism of yourself and the anxiety and all of that. Just working to mitigate those in healthier ways so that they don't destroy all the big possibilities that you can achieve if you just rechannel the energy. So I don't know. I think that's it right now.
Well, that was a lot. That was awesome, Amanda.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, you're so authentic. I just really, really appreciate just who you are, and the way that you express is just absolutely wonderful. And I'm just so grateful just to know you, you know, and just
thank you.
Yeah, just the fact that you were willing to share, and the way that in the beginning you completely processed with us here on the recording, okay, there's 2 ways I could think about this. I could be really anxious and nervous, and, you know, I know we talked about that a little bit before too, but I really appreciate you. I don't know if there's anyone on the line, so I'm going to take a minute just to say if anyone's there that wants to make a comment or ask Amanda a question, I'll just give a few seconds to open it up. Maybe nobody's on the line. It's all good. Listen, did you want to maybe you're Koplin and Associates. What's if someone wanted to get in touch with you or follow what you're doing and be a hero, whatever it is, how could they get in touch with you or whatever?
Yeah, so they could just email me at Amanda@Koplin, KOPLIN consulting.com. So, you know, they could also, I'm not sure, we're just switching the name of the company right now. It used to be a Hero, but now it's going to Koplin. Yeah, Koplin Consulting. So they could just reach out to Amanda@KoplinConsulting.com.
Cool. Okay. We'll leave it at that then. Amanda,
awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful and so proud of you for everything, and, you know, giving back in the world too, especially the ED world. You're so appreciated. And I will. Well, I'll see you next month. Amanda's going to speak in the panel. She's flying in. She lives in Texas, by the way, if anyone was wondering. Amanda, I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's incredible.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amanda. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.